What's up? How's it going, guys? Welcome, flooring family. Welcome to the Huddle. We're here every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central, discussing topics to help you maintain forward progress in your flooring career. Today, with me, as always, Mr. Daniel and Jose Gonzalez from Preferred Flooring in Grand Rapids, Michigan. You guys are a staple and the co-hosts of this podcast, and a lot of times the backbone. Thanks for carrying the torch last week.
Well, we didn't do anything last week.
Yeah,
Okay, well the torch still got carried by what?
and I would say probably more like a thorn, not a staple. Still poke you, still there.
So this week we're talking about building long-term customer relationships. We've touched on different topics like this before, building relationships and effectively doing that, but maybe just um, a different take. It's one thing to build you know just a business relationship, but a lot of times what I've found is the long-term customer relationships typically turn into some type of a friendship outside the business. Even if it's not you're going over to each other's houses barbecuing every week, it's just like
Mhm.
it's just a little friendlier. It's about each other's kids and what sports and how they're doing, and once you get there, you got a friendship and a good business relationship, and so it seems to me like it has a lot to do with caring. I know we say that a lot, but caring about the other person and kind of caring about what they need, and then what I've experienced is then they kind of get interested in you or whatever, and you start doing work so often that it's almost impossible to not talk about your kids or your dogs or your cat, or you selling your house or whatever the deal you're doing. So it becomes a little more intimate. But thought I'd get your guys' take on such a big topic. We can go 50
Yeah,
different paths,
right.
but
I think that just social media in general has played a huge role in it, right? Because not everyone needs to, you don't have to ask them. Sometimes you're like, hey, I seen this on Facebook. How did that, I get it all the time. How'd that tournament go? How'd your son do? Seeing you guys were on vacation. How was it? And it just makes things so much easier that
Yeah,
you everyone is connected, so you're constantly seeing what people have going on, and you're asking about it.
that's a good point.
So
it is, isn't it? The social media is like a little side window into somebody's life, right? It does help facilitate conversations. And it does help actually find common ground, and similarities between lifestyles and families, and that's where a lot of conversation does come from. Um, I am I am still a little bit old school. I do like the in person, right? Like I don't use social media in that manner to the fullest. I like to plug in little one-liners and jokes and just uh, be nosy, but like in a funny way, nosy. Uh, but I
You
still, yeah, I still like the face to face and the handshake and the hug and I like asking I like asking questions like that face to face, right? Because it holds more weight.
Well, I guess it kind of bodes the question: can is that social media activity um, niceties, or is it? I think you can tell whether it's a genuine, like, how'd your kid do on that tournament or something.
Mhm.
I've seen Messenger get used that way, um, and not just on somebody's feed, but
and I'm not
you
even
know.
talking
I,
about just on the feed. I mean, like, sometimes we'll see people in person and then be like, hey, I remember I seen you
yeah,
were on vacation. How'd that go? And
Gotcha.
I just had someone in here the other day, and him and his wife, maybe it was just him. I think maybe it was him and his wife, but they went to Canada fishing, and then we just talked about how many fish they caught and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's a good way to stay connected and keep it going. But building relationships long term, I don't want to cheapen it. once you start talking about it in a way of like what techniques you use or whatever, it almost feels like you're cheapening it, or
Yeah,
feels like it's manipulative. That's not the case. I think that at
no,
the end of the day, I
I,
like doing business with people I like. So if I've done business with someone and I enjoyed it, I just naturally feel like I want to get to know them a little bit more. And I think it's the same the other direction. They like working with me. I take care of them, and you just have these conversations that come up about personal life. But from a business perspective, it all comes down to execution, in my opinion. Like it all starts there, because you can run a friendship with business, and you can real quick if you're not careful.
Right.
So building those long-term relationships can be really valuable. But I've always also gotten this intense desire that like I don't want to let this person down. You know. Um,
so you're absolutely right, and I'll add to that. So I'm just going to go back to like experiences that I've had. Early on, and people do know when you're being genuine and when you're not being genuine, right? Like it's people who can read that and sense that it's a feeling, right? It's a feeling, and you can see how engaged someone is, how engaged you are in the conversation. Are you really paying attention, or are you just following some kind of template that you're used to using? If I said that I wasn't like that at one point in my life, I would 100% be lying, because when you get into any type of business, you try to find out who you are and your best approach. And the only way to do that is to engage in conversation, right? Whether it's genuine or not. It's just trying to find out what makes the other person tick. And after a while, you find your stride, and you say, it's so much easier just to be myself, because it's either going to attract the people that I want, or it's not. And you can feel that energy from the other people as well. They're either going to be
yeah.
themselves or they're not. And
Yeah, I think being genuine, like you, is important, as you're saying.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, man. I do have some jokes that come out probably around the wrong people at the wrong time, but is it really the wrong time, right? Like, I'm being genuine, and it does lead to other conversations, because sometimes it just comes out and people are just like, what did he just say? Hey, who are you? What are
No,
you
it's
doing?
usually I can't believe he just said that.
Well, I mean, so I started it off this way because this is the easy way to talk about relationships, right? Building a long-term relationship, you automatically think friendship, and kind of mixing a little bit of business with pleasure from the standpoint of you may go out to dinner with a vendor or with a customer, or go golfing, and actually enjoy each other's time. What about building relationships with people, business relationships with people you may not personally like?
So
That
to me,
that's
that's
tough.
an easy one. To be honest with
Okay.
you,
We got the answers, guys. Tune in.
it's for me. Hey, everyone. This is all perspective, right? This is all perspective. Everybody has their own angle and their own way to approach it. And for me, early on, it was like you said earlier. I can't lose this one. I want this one. I'd like to work. Uh, I'd like to work for this person or with this person, right? Like that was the premise of the relationship. And when you're going to have a business relationship, right? Because one person or both don't talk about anything personal, right? Like they don't bring anything up, or like they don't share that type of stuff, and it's easy to spot and to notice right away. But up until the last 5 years, maybe 4 years, I thought that it was more about trying to tell them what I could offer them as far as a service, and what separates us when for the business relationship, when it's more of a dance, right? Hey, you help me, I help you. It's a team effort, and that's how it is now. And I sat down with with the chamber, and this is where the first time I heard it from Dante is, when you're trying to build a business relationship, actually, it wasn't Dante. I'm sorry. It was Rick from Rockford. He was with Rockford at the time. He was like, sometimes it takes 2 years to build that work relationship. And in 2 years, you might not have any work from them, right? But it's not about you trying to get your foot in the door. You can't get your foot in the door, so you walk away with your hands up. It's like, I just move on to the next one. No, it's sometimes it takes 2 years to build a good working relationship or to start a working relationship because they're the trust factor. They have people they've been working with that they trust and haven't let them down, right? So you just have to be ready and willing when the opportunity presents itself to make good with that opportunity. And we've done our very best to try to do that when opportunity has presented itself.
Well,
It almost sounds like you danced around the question because you were just talking about someone that you haven't done work for, not someone that you don't like. So I think
Um,
it's like someone when you don't like them, he was saying that it's easier because then you don't have to ask them those personal questions. It's just
okay, maybe I
there's
just
been people
misunderstood.
that we've done work for that it's like they don't necessarily like us, we don't necessarily like them, but we know that they run a tight ship and so do we, and things just get done. So you don't have to even talk about anything. It's here's the work, go do it, pay me.
yeah, that's the
That's a
type
very
of stuff.
monotone.
Yeah, and those relationships, what I was getting at, are not built on niceties. They're built on trust, as you said, Jose. And how do you build trust on from a business perspective is execution from both sides, honesty and execution. So it's hard you know, for me, it's hard to build a relationship or want to be close business wise with someone who doesn't do ethical business. But if we're all operating on that field, personally, I don't have to like you. You probably will never know it. But my goal is to give you the best experience as I can that's possible and execute on a high level and give you a good quality project at the end of the day. Those relationships are sometimes more stable than the other when you form that friendship on the outside. I've had to go both ways, but in general, I don't want to say like I don't want to be friends with everybody, but it'd be tough to be friends with every
Yeah,
client. Like,
and you have that dynamic, right? Because when you don't like someone, it's easier to be like, well, I really don't want to do this project, so I'm just gonna hike up these numbers. But when you do like them, it's like, man, I really want to help them out, and then you help them out, and it's like, what's up, bro? I still didn't get it. He was like, sorry.
yeah.
So
Well,
You're
those
right
guys,
about that dynamic.
the good dynamics are when they like doing business with you so much that they don't necessarily bid you out all the time, only when they have to. And I'm talking about like a general contractor, but even an end user, we've developed a really good relationship with a pharmaceutical company where we're not friends on the outside. And sometimes it's a very pointed conversation between our companies, but they always have the need. They call us, we schedule the crews, we show up, we execute and get the job done, and then it's off to the next year's shutdown before we hear from them again. But sure enough, every year it's a call, it's shutdown time. We need 5 guys for 3 days, and we need these 2 rooms with new sheet vinyl or whatever. So half the time I don't ever see them, but that's a good business relationship. And building that is built on execution, doing what you say you'll do, and then good quality, product.
yeah, we have people like that too, where it's like it's a huge building, but it only gets done in sections at a time. So as soon as that next one is ready, it could be 2 years from now. We know that the phone's going to be ringing, and We don't get too personal with them, but it's a great business relationship. They love us, and we love working with them because both they're going to keep on calling. We
And
love that.
is there any other dynamic that we could share outside of executing and being honest?
Um, just make sure that there's that understanding that you guys are both in business to be profitable. You have to understand that. They have to understand that, and I guess that still falls under the being honest thing too. So
Yeah, but that's a damn good point, to be honest with you. Since we're talking about honesty, I mean, that's a really good point. You want to, what a good key, to a relationship is mutual benefit. So that's a
yeah.
very good point.
We recently had one of our longtime business relationships end because just things were getting missed and they kept falling on my shoulders or Daniel's shoulders to take care of it. And it, it was becoming the normal for them to drop it in our lap and not take care of it themselves. And that was where and then when I finally said we have to talk, they didn't like to talk, and it was very apparent that blame was getting pushed one direction, and accountability was not present. And so they ended the relationship. To be honest with you, I mean, we kind of ended it through a discussion, but they decided to not follow up with phone calls or emails. So, which is okay. That's totally okay. I get it.
Yeah, I think that relationships out of convenience is different than a good, strong relationship, right?
Yes, that's
And if you're there because, and we have to be careful with this, speaking of relationships, moving away from customer and moving into working with your vendors or your subcontractors, um, you want to be cognizant of your crews and when you're working with them, uh, just like you said, Jose, you want them to make money and be profitable. You need that relationship to be profitable. That's how you attract the best subs. Now, like the grass is not always green. Stuff does happen. Things are tough sometimes. But for the most part, if you care about them being profitable, they care about you being profitable, that's a good foundational piece. And then you add execution to the mix and some honesty, and you got something good going. Those convenience relationships are when you got a guy that only a one or two crews that can do a specialty floor, and you only give them those really tough jobs because they're the ones that can do it. You better toss them. I think we talked about this in a
Yeah.
previous episode too. Like you better toss them some
we
carpet
do
towel
carpet
every now and
towel
then.
too.
Yeah, we do carpet towel too,
Yeah,
man.
we do carpet tile too.
Hey, gentlemen, I'm gonna have to take off, man. I'm being summoned right now. We are actually at baseball tryouts, so I apologize.
Hey man, well, good luck.
All right, thanks, guys. I'm gonna turn it on. I'll see you guys on socials.
All right.
Okay, bro. So yeah, I know that when you're talking about relationship with crews or employees, that really boils down to um, caring. Caring about when we're dealing with our employee crews, it's kind of knowing about their families and actually caring about their livelihoods and
Yeah,
their
absolutely.
lifestyle.
Because when we were labor only, we just ran into this situation with because we had some of our trade partners doing some of our residential work lately. So what happened back in the day was we were doing a job for these people, and then it's like, well, there's no base removal, there's no carpet removal or anything on here, and we have to do everything. So they're like, just do it, and we'll cover you. And it's one of those learning moments, right? Because we do everything and then we bill it, and then they send a check with our invoice crossing stuff out saying we're not paying this, we're not paying that, and it's like, noted. And then it's get to our job, and it's like, this client is saying that we were supposed to be moving the furniture. And rather than go to the client and be like, listen, I wasn't doing this, it's going to cost this much. And it's like, what's it going to take? 2 hours? Just do it. Bill me for it. It's like, I'm not trying to make them pay and go through this whole ordeal. It's going to cost me 2 hours. Just do it. Get it done. I'll pay you for your time. Let's make everyone happy. And I
Yeah.
think that's, especially in some of the Facebook groups that I've seen a lot, it's always people saying, well, don't do this, don't do that. You have to get paid for this. And it's like, to a certain extent, yeah, but really you're trying to solve a problem and make people happy at the same time. And sometimes it's just a bigger headache if you start adding all those variables. And when it's just like, man, it's going to cost me $100, $150, just do it and let's get it done. That way we can have everything done today that we were supposed to.
Yeah, those Facebook groups, I've seen a lot of the, don't let them nickel and dime you kind of attitude. And I can sympathize with it and I agree. But at the same time, you can't let everything just fall apart because of something like that. Like a moving or some additional prep or something. There's ways now. We don't have to do everything on paper. You can get approved change orders and things digitally these days with Go Carrera. Plug Go Carrera there, where you can get those things executed from a digital standpoint. But the I think it all boils down to mutually beneficial relationships tend to thrive regardless of the personal aspect of it, whether it's a subcontractor we're dealing with or employee installer or a client. It's like mutually beneficial. Like I said earlier, like our employee crews, a lot of them don't like going out of town, for example. And we never bid a job planning on them, sending them out of town to do the work. But if we get into a situation where a trade partner let us down and didn't show up or has problems, that's why I have employee installers. We got to continue to push that project forward. And sometimes we have to send them out of town. And we try to mitigate that as much as possible. And at the same time, make sure they know we really appreciate them for doing that. And, you know, maybe bump up the per diem here and there as best as we can, where the project budget allows to show some appreciation. But relationships, by their very nature, are difficult. They take management, whether it's a business relationship or a personal one. So building them long term, I think if what your brother said on mutually beneficial, basically both caring about the other's profit, honest, ethical business practices, and then execution. Those are like three really good pillars to kind of look at, and how can you strengthen those three things. So execute, care about the other person's money, and be ethical.
Yeah, everyone's there for the same goal, right? Gotta make everyone happy. Sometimes it's not possible, but it's the end goal every time.
Yeah. Well, when it does work, it's magic and it's wonderful. But you know, the the best thing that I can say is they're not easy to come by. Like once you're into building a good relationship with somebody, it's really important to maintain it. And they're hard to come by. That client that'll call you and just want your advice on something. Give it for free. Give freely that way, and then they're going to call you to do work. I get calls from architects very often about just, hey, what product should I put in this scenario? And we'll say, give them a few options, making sure they put the right type of product in a facility. and we do that freely. It's not like we're working, and we'll spend, quite a bit of time on research and sending them product data sheets and stuff like that, so that they not only know that that's what we recommend, but also have the backup for that. So, it's just about, I think, caring about the other person. I know that some of this is, pretty typical stuff, but I think it bodes reminding, like, that is the key to business, is building those strong long-term client relationships and having long-term employees. I just gave I think I gave our sixth 10-year anniversary plaque uh, the week before last, right before I left for the
Nice.
show.
Yeah, and
And
I'll plug Simon Sinek because we've talked about him a few times because he says all the time there's all these books on like how you can help yourself, but there's nothing about helping others. And sometimes you have to realize that in order to help yourself, sometimes you have to help others because that's gonna come back to you eventually. And where Jose was earlier talking about. Sometimes you deal with people for 2 years and you don't see anything, and all it takes is that one time. And I think we've been with the chamber for like 2 or 3 years now, and seeing the same people over and over again, and that's how long it took to get in the door with some of these people is 2 or 3 years. But then it wasn't just 2 or 3 years and here's a little $2,000 project. We're talking about here's 2 or 3 years, and now we're doing.
what was that last part? You're back. Well, yeah, there definitely, it's an investment in other people at the end of the day. It's not just, and I think that's why you can't be phony with it. And if you don't like someone, uh, don't try to force it. Just try to execute and be the best, at doing your job, or doing what you say. But you can't be phony and force it. You'll be miserable. So long term, it's best to, um, really focus on where can you find common ground is one of the best things I can say. It's one of the things I do. If I'm not seeing eye to eye with somebody, what do they want and what do I want out of the deal? And then can we make that happen? And I think people appreciate that for the most part. What are some key things that you guys do to strengthen relationships with employees? What's your favorite gift card to give? That's our favorite. That's the one that seems to get them going the best. You got to feed them some Texas Roadhouse, and you'll go a long way. What do you guys do? I know you've mentioned this before, but I think it's worth revisiting. You guys do some stuff where you do some cooking out and things like that as well, right?
Yeah. So we brought some grills here, and I brought grills to some of the job sites before and cook out for the guys. And there's been some days where we don't really have much going on, or we're just like call it a day at this time, be back here, we'll eat something, play some bags, and sometimes you grab a 24 pack or something for the guys, something so that way they can just hang out, talk about stuff. It's something that we don't get to do often, especially the guys, since we're here in the office. We don't get that time with them like we used to when we were in the field with them.
Yeah, I know that's like every once in a while going out in the field and working. I did it a few weeks ago, and it's like them seeing you out there willing to do what you're asking them to do. Um, a lot of times that's proven to be beneficial. And I don't just do it for that. The fact is, I still kind of like getting down there and doing stuff.
It's way
But
easier than being in the office all day using your brain.
man, I'll tell you what, some days I yearn for the field. Yearn just to get back out there and install, not have anything worrisome on my mind other than just doing a good quality job on whatever I'm installing. Figuring out a little problem out there, but certainly um, it's less stressful in a lot of ways. Not to say that the installers don't have stress. I know that that's not true, but um, the cooking out and stuff is a way that we use to connect, kind of like you just said, connect the field and the office, and kind of let them know we're there for them. We also have a habit of, if you get injured or if you are sick, um, and not contagious sick, but just like not feeling well or whatever. We've had a guy that had knee surgery. Instead of sitting at home, we brought him into the office. We were like, come in and work, learn some, but also you'll have some empathy for some of your fellow office people, because I think the idea is that we just are sitting there, telling jokes and relaxing all day. And as you know, it's nothing could be further from the truth. But a lot of our crews learn that from coming into the office for a few days and checking it out, and doing some work in there and working next to project managers and stuff, and seeing that stress level of what people have to deal with in the office. And that's went pretty well too.
Yeah, Eduardo asked if he can join in again, so I sent him a link, see if it
Yeah.
works. Yeah, don't get me wrong, the employees thing is hard. The relationship thing in general is hard because it's sometimes as someone always feels like they deserve more when the other person feels like they're already giving them the most that they can give them, you know. But that's where
Well, that's where I think that mutually
yeah,
beneficial comes in is, frankly, employees or, uh, installers in general, whether it's employee or subs, understanding they have to be a benefit to you as much as they expect you to be a benefit to them.
yeah.
Ed Walker joining us. Let's
Is he on
see.
there?
No, I don't
Oh,
see him. Let
maybe he
me
changed
check.
his mind. Oh, there he goes.
I'm here.
What's
Hey,
up?
Eduardo.
Hey, thanks for having me again. I just like hanging out while sending emails.
Oh no, you're good.
Well, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
What's your take on, the topics building strong long-term relationships? And we kind of started with clients and moved through employees and trade partners and um, kind of came up with, ethical dealings for one another, um, mutually beneficial relationship, and then execution, doing what you say you're going to do, kind of the pillars that we've established. What's your thoughts?
It's just something that a lot of people don't understand how long it takes to build relationships and the value of them. Like just how much goodwill you put out there with other people and how eventually it comes back in one way or the other. And so that's kind of my take on it. How when I was an installer, I just, work order, I got the money, I went home. And it's just like 80% of the work sometimes is just getting everything together so the installer can put it in. So it just now I'm on the other side, on the computer side, and it's mentally exhausting and stressful, and it takes just a mountain of time to get anything done.
Yeah, and like you said, you gotta be able to know that anytime you're given something, you're not necessarily going to get anything back, right? Like
Yeah,
you always want to, but you're given just to give, not to receive anything back right away.
Yeah, it's not a convenience store interaction. You give them $1 and you get your Snicker bar. It takes more investment than that to build an honestly good relationship with someone.
Yeah, and
correct.
it's relationships all the way around because when we were labor only, we would constantly have people like, hey, let me take you out over here. You guys been doing great work. Let's go over here. And then sometimes we'd be like, thanks. We'll go over there. And then, when we're there, we're like, you know what? We got this one. You've been giving us a lot of work. We appreciate you at the same time. And we've taken GCs out, that the bosses that are on site, and even down to at Christmas time, some of the distributors around here, we've gone in there with some swag and some gift cards. Just like anytime they've gone above and beyond, it's only fair that we return something to them.
Well, and they're paramount to your business in flooring. It's like one of the most important relationships you can have is with your vendors. And they're hard sometimes to maintain because you get let down and it's hard to um, not separate and give grace when you probably would want grace in that same situation. So
Yeah, Kevin's on here. He says you're only as good as the job you did. This correlates with relationships as well. So we'll be looking for him to take us to some dinner at CFI convention then.
yeah, boy.
My favorite free food.
Well, you going to CFI, Eduardo?
No, I sold my soul to the salaryman, and now I'm doing other stuff.
Ah,
So I don't get to go out where I want to anymore.
gotcha.
Oh, Kevin clarified. He says the last job you did, not as the job you did.
Fair enough. That's all in execution, I think, executing at a high level.
That's what the installation part is all about. And then once you get into the office, it's the more the communication. I think it's like I always say, it's easier to just go out there and do it. It's harder to be in here and having to organize everything because this is where all the headaches get funneled.
Where they yeah, that's the best way to put it. I was gonna say that's where they start, but not necessarily. It is where they get funneled, though. Well, we are about 20 minutes early here. Not that an hour is always the goal, but I do believe,
Sometimes you got to
we
keep them short and sweet.
short and sweet. We've dove into this a little bit in I mean, it's always going to come up. And the best I can say is value your trade partners, whether that's your GC or your subs or your employees, people who you work with, value them, and do your very best to take some of the nuggets out of this podcast and just to again to kind of raise that foam to the top. It's about executing or doing what you say you're going to do. Um, Doing business and your dealings with other people in an ethical manner, and at the end of the day, having a mutually beneficial relationship. Of course, there's all kinds of stuff, like you said, communication and everything that plays into that, but communication is a piece of execution sometimes. Sometimes it's a piece of being mutually beneficial relationships. But I think if you can kind of keep that in mind, it's kind of a good reminder for myself. You know, sometimes these podcasts, I get on here and talk, and I'm like, yeah, you could probably do better at that, Paul. So I love doing these because it kind of reminds me how important it is to take care of people and help other people and do the best job you can and be ethical and honest. So,
Yeah, if you're not constantly telling yourself that you can do better at something, then something is wrong.
amen. That's what it's all about, continuous improvement. With that, gentlemen, Eduardo, thanks for joining us for the short time here and your inputs. You
We
got
like
any
you better
closing?
than my brother, so
Now, I mean, I do have some input on that. It's like when you start recording and listening to yourself, your speech improves like dramatically. Just listening to the ums and it's crazy how effective communication is for leadership and inspiring other people. So, clear communication is crazy that everyone assumes everyone knows it, and we don't know it.
we don't know nothing.
We don't know nothing.
Yeah.
So this is good
If
training.
everyone just assumes that they don't know nothing, don't know anything, then maybe things will start getting better.
Absolutely agree.
Fair enough. All right, gentlemen. Well, thanks again. Have a good rest of your Tuesday afternoon. We'll see you next week. Until then, I think we start a new series. This one's going to be good. It's packed full of really tactical and applicable information if you're even considering being a flooring contractor. And by that, I mean a material and labor provider of flooring, where you purchase and you work with distributors and you work with general contractors
And you start getting all these headaches we keep on talking about.
yeah. So we're going to go through a lot of the details of that. I've counseled with a couple of people who've reached out over Facebook to me that got a contract on a commercial job and are scared to death because they have no idea what to do. So this is going to be a 101. If you want to be in commercial as a flooring contractor, tune in. In the meantime, if you like some of our ramblings and jokes when Jose can pull one out, or Daniel's
I'm not very funny.
no, but you sidearm your brother pretty well. So consider giving us a like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, or comment, share it, help get the message out. We're just some guys here that have been through a lot in the flooring industry, and sharing our experiences and our point of view. So anytime you want to join, just like Eduardo did, you're welcome to reach out and let us know. We'll get you on the show. Until then, we'll see you later.
See ya.